First of all, let's talk about guns in America. There's an amazing amount of misinformation.
The NRA, the National Rifle Association,
It's the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization in America. They're anything but a domestic terror organization. The opposite. They defend our Second Amendment rights. They're comprised of millions of law-abiding Americans across the country. You know what? They're the ones protecting the rights of law-abiding Americans so that we can protect against the criminals.
So we should just let people who are, in your opinion, inherently bad run amok with no checks.
No, that's what's so beautiful about the Constitution. Bad people are going to try to corrupt their power. We have checks and balances against them.
So you don't need a 31
See, it's interesting. But it's interesting. You say you don't need. You're imposing your own particular worldview on someone else.
military-grade weapon.
So you do realize that every member of the military has a pistol. So you call a pistol a military-grade weapon. Can anyone tell me what an assault rifle is? You can't do it because it's a made-up term by politicians trying to take our gun away. Yeah, sure. Pistols are heavy weapons. Can we get rid of that? Yeah, we should. Can we get rid of knives? Yeah, we should.
Friends, please welcome a young man the left absolutely loves to hate, the founder of Turning Point USA, my friend Charlie Kirk. Thank you, Chris. It's a great honor to be here today. I run a national student activist organization. We're present on over 1,300 college and high school campuses. And I just have to say, you've been doing a great job, Chris, in the NRA. It's been totally amazing to see. And when tragedy struck, the media tried to continue with a singular narrative of gun control. And I think we have a special guest today here, Chris. Someone who courageously stood up to the media and fought for our Second Amendment rights as a Parkland student himself. Why don't we call out Kyle Kashuv? Are you here?
Hey,
let's welcome Kyle Kashuv, who did an unbelievable job, right?
Thank you. I am truly honored to be here in front of you. You guys are absolute patriots. Give yourself a round of applause. After Parkland on the 14th, I realized that the Second Amendment was under siege. So you know what I did? I went to DC. I met with dozens of senators, the amazing president, and the VP, and we got the Stop School Violence Act passed. I want to let every single one of you know that no matter what they say, they will not take our guns away! Thank you so much. God bless America. God bless you.
Kyle is amazing, and I'm also proud to announce he is our new director of high school outreach at Turning Point USA. So he's going to grow this movement to more and more campuses to fight leftist indoctrination and to fight for the Constitution. They're not teaching the Constitution in our school anymore. They're really not. And it's amazing. Walking through the March for Our Lives, it's a funny story. I just happened to be in DC, and I was walking down the streets, and I saw all this infrastructure being put up and these guardrails and police starting to prepare. I said, what is going on here? Millions of dollars were being spent, and it was for the March for Our Lives. And so I decided to stay an extra night, and I paid a couple of my buddies to follow me around with their cameras. And I said, I'll just go ask some questions. And by the way, they said it was a student movement. Most of the people there were AARP members. Okay, they were drawing Social Security. It was not a student movement. And actually, a study showed that less than 10% of the marchers were actually students. And so I started to ask some very simple questions like, what is an assault weapon? What, by the way, which is a made-up term by politicians. Anytime they try to use this term assault weapon, it could be a baseball bat, it could be a knife, totally made-up term. And the ignorance that these people had towards firearms towards the Constitution was stunning, and so we made some videos, they went totally viral. But it was really, really important because they said, oh, Charlie, you're just arguing semantics. Language matters when they're talking about taking away our guns. Language matters. When they say assault weapon, assault rifle, sniper rifle, some lady said, oh, I just want to make sure all the AK-47s are taken away. I said, yeah, we got this on camera. That's going to be a lot of fun. So Kyle's a total superstar, and what he went through, that terrible tragedy, and he courageously addressed the issues at hand and said, I'm not going to allow this singular incident to be hijacked by one perspective. And he went on multiple shows. He debated Piers Morgan and won, which, by the way, Piers Morgan deserves it. I'll tell you what, that guy, he's something else. And so Kyle did an amazing, amazing job, and he's going to be doing just an even better job with us running our high school outreach. And so the last 12 days, you've probably seen all the news with Kanye West going on out there, which is great development. You saw the Trump's approval ratings jump from 11% to 22% amongst black males, which is absolutely amazing. So we have our communications director is a total superstar. It's a young lady named Candace Owens. Have you heard her name once or twice? She's our communications director at Turning Point USA. And one tweet by Kanye West that said, I love the way Candace Owens thinks, totally broke the internet. And there's a real movement happening in this country, folks, because the leftist media and the schools, they've way overplayed their hands. They have attacked our values for far too long. They have tried to single out those of us that believe in free speech, that believe in the Second Amendment, that believe in the Constitution. And middle America is rising up. I'm telling you, middle Americans, like the people in this room and the 6 million members of the NRA, we're not going to take it anymore. We are not going to allow the New York and Malibu elites, as I like to call them, continue to dictate that middle part of America. And there's really something special happening. And you see it with the president, you see it with the results, which, by the way, I believe President Trump is going to go down as the most successful president of our lifetime. I really believe that. I believe that President Trump is going to go down as the most successful president. So some thoughts I wanted to leave with you here today is so really important. First of all, there is no First Amendment without a Second Amendment. Make no mistake. You can't pick and choose your freedoms. You either have freedom or you don't. The Founding Fathers knew exactly what they were doing when they wrote the Second Amendment. They needed an amendment to protect all the other amendments. They put in the Second Amendment to protect us against government tyranny. Now, that's not always a popular thing to talk about in the media, but if you look at the 20th century, it is riddled with examples of governments gaining way too much power and using that power against the citizens. There is no First Amendment without the Second Amendment. The other thing that is extremely important to remember is once you give up your rights and your freedoms, don't expect to get them back. Once you give up your freedoms, do not expect to get them back. Because to use the own quote from the March for Our Lives, one of the speakers said, if you give us an inch, we are going to take a mile. Direct quote. If you give us an inch, we are going to take a mile. So once you give up your freedoms and liberties, do not expect to get them back. Because we are up against a group of individuals that are going to use the rest of their lives and all their resources to try to take our freedoms and liberties away. Now, mind you, these are liberals. They say, oh yeah, we hate guns. They walk around with armed guards. We hate borders. They live in gated communities. We hate we hate school choice, but we send our kids to private schools. The liberals are the most hypocritical people you could possibly imagine. They want to tell us how to live our lives, and yet they live a completely different life for themselves. And truly, and the other important point that we have to remember is freedom must be protected. Is that if we do not have the capacity to defend our freedoms, which the Second Amendment allows us to do, then our rights and freedoms can be just written away in an instant. The pundits on TV, they say, oh, our democracy must be protected. We are not a democracy, folks. We are a constitutional republic. We are a constitutional republic with a democratic means of representation. Because a democracy means that if 50% of people believe something, our rights and freedoms can go away. The vision of the Founding Fathers, which was so transcendent and divine, is they understood that you have natural rights upon birth. That when you're born, that you have these rights and government cannot take them away. The Constitution was the first political document, one of the only political documents ever written To not say, oh, here's what you can and cannot do. There are rules for government, folks. There are rules to prevent government from encroaching on our freedoms and liberties. And mind you, you go to the First Amendment, you go to the Second Amendment, you go to the Fourth Amendment, it's saying you have a right to say whatever you want to say. You have a right to defend yourself and your family. You have a right to not get unreasonably searched and seizure. And that is so different than any other political document written until its time, because until then, it was just a monarchy. It was a king ruling absolutely. And the Founding Fathers were the first successful political victors ever to voluntarily give up power. Think about that. Never before in human history had people won a war and then said, we're going to give power away. Instead, they could have created the Washingtonian, Hamiltonian, and Jeffersonian monarchy. They could have taken absolute power because that's all people knew. And they tried something so transcendent and so different that created the greatest country in the history of the world. That, by the way, we should say that more often. America is the greatest country in the history of the world. Make no mistake. It truly is. And, by the way, I do a lot of work on college campuses. Somehow that's hate speech now, saying America is the greatest country in the history of the world. The rise of anti-Americanism on college campuses is so dramatic. I believe the greatest threat to Western civilization is what's happening on our college campuses today. I really do. Because you had a group of academics that never could have made it in the real world. Professors that never could have succeeded on the outside. They're bitterly unhappy people that want to try to indoctrinate and deprogram America's youth away from our fundamental values because they're just so malevolent towards the world that they can never succeed in themselves. By the way, are liberals like really unhappy people, or is it just me? It seems like a liberal would rather see rich people become poor than poor people become rich. A liberal would rather tell you how to live your life than actually improve the life of their own. A liberal would rather see the world completely redefined than actually fix the own circumstances that they're living in currently. And this is so important, folks, because we as conservatives, as free thinkers, and as members of the National Rifle Association, we're never going to tell you how to live your life. You don't like guns? Don't buy one, right? If you really are, just stay away from them. By the way, if they say, oh, well, I don't like guns. Really? We protect our banks with guns. We protect our celebrities with guns. We protect our sporting events with guns. We protect everything that we hold near and dear with guns except our schools. That is one of the most screwed up things I've ever heard of. Every single school should have an armed guard in front of it. Our banks, our celebrities, our sporting events, our movie theaters we protect with guns, but not our schools. What could possibly be more important than our children? And our airports too. It's absolutely unbelievable. So final thought I want to leave with you is very important. Just because something horrible happens does not mean our rights go away. Just because tragedy strikes, it does not mean our rights go away. And the more time I spent in Parkland, and Kyle has been so amazing, I went down and spoke down in Parkland with the MSD students, and I talked to them and I learned about the failures of the government agencies. And I said, let me get this straight. Hundreds of students reported on that madman, and the school resource officers did nothing. Hundreds. And we have videos that are going to be released soon of these students saying he used to write SS on his test because it stood for school shooter. He used to walk around the courtyard and pantomime what he was going to do. And the school resource officers basically did nothing. The local police had boxes of reports on this guy, and they did nothing. The FBI, by the way, which they should have been more investigating this shooter than these crazy emails that they're doing against the president, but that's something completely different. But actually, it's real related. They're so on these political witch hunts, they can't actually do their own job. The FBI had 2 documented tips against this guy, and they did nothing. So you have the local school, you have the school resource officers, you have the FBI, you have the cowards of Broward that stood outside while this maniac killed these students. How the hell is that the NRA's fault? Seriously, I mean, can someone explain that to me? How is that the NRA's fault when every single level of government failed? Every single level. I'll tell you why. Because the left would like nothing more than the most effective, the most powerful grassroots organization in America, the NRA, to be decapitated. Because they know as long as the NRA is powerful, they cannot obtain unilateral political power. And that's why the 6 million members of the National Rifle Association are the greatest threat to the American left that exists today and the greatest protector of American freedom now and for the rest of the 21st century. So thank you guys so much. God bless you. With your help, we're going to win this battle. Thank you guys.
Good.